Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for the Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Last week, we talked about the Washington Naval Treaty of 1922. It was the first international arms limitation treaty in human history. This week, we're going to talk about the London Naval Treaty of 1930. This was the first of two successor treaties to the Washington Naval Treaty. The Washington Naval Treaty limited the size of capital ships such as battleships and aircraft carriers, and also the sizes of cruisers and destroyers. Destroyers are much smaller escort vessels that would be in the 1,500-ton range and usually have 5-inch guns. And cruisers were limited to 10,000 tons and fell into one of two categories: light cruisers with 6-inch guns or heavy cruisers with 8-inch guns. The Washington Naval Treaty also limited the number of battleships and aircraft carriers that countries could have. It did not limit the number of cruisers or destroyers. So within the years following the Washington Naval Treaty, countries started to build more and more cruisers in a new arms race. To stop this, signatories met in London to limit the number of cruisers and destroyers that could be built. Behind me is the protected cruiser Olympia. She is an example of one of the ships that had to be decommissioned following the naval treaties. During World War I, signatory powers had a lot of older pre-dreadnought type battleships laying around. These pre-dreadnoughts, because of their age and obsolescence, were expendable, so they could be used in dangerous missions. As a consequence, many were sunk by mines, gunfire, torpedoes. During World War II, many of the older battleships and cruisers had already been scrapped thanks to the international naval treaties. Modern battleships weren't going to be risked in dangerous situations, so you see nations deploying their cruisers into the meat grinder conflict zones of Guadalcanal in the South Pacific or Bomb Alley in the Mediterranean. We're here at a hatch leading through the armored deck on Battleship New Jersey. Our armored deck is 6 inches thick, as you can see right here. This armor is thicker than the main belts of most cruisers. Very few treaty cruisers would have armor this thick, much less any thicker. It's one of the major differences between battleships and cruisers. Our armored belt is at least twice as thick as this, and it was on the thinner end for battleships of this time period. American heavy cruisers were nicknamed tin-clads because they were so lightly armored. We're on the shell deck for Turret 2 on the Battleship New Jersey. Around me you can see the 16-inch shells that we would have fired. Each one weighs between 1,900 and 2,700 pounds. Heavy cruisers would have had 8-inch shells. The base of those shells would be half the diameter of these, and they'd only be about 2/3 as tall. Light cruisers only had 6-inch shells, hardly bigger than our secondary battery of 5-inch guns. These are some of the powder bags for our 16-inch guns. Each one weighs 110 pounds. That's still about twice the size of a powder bag for a 6-inch gun. This canister is to hold the casing for our 5-inch guns. It's about the size of a casing for 6-inch ammunition. 8-inch guns would also be carried in casings instead of individual bags like this. Because of that, they could be manually loaded, and it was much quicker than firing a 16-inch gun. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Tune in next week.